Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Friday, November 15th. We hit the midpoint in the month today after stocks slipped yesterday following a hawkish tone from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Markets continued to give back some of the gains from the week's post-election rally. The Dow dropped 207 points, or just about 0.5%. The S&P 500 shed 36 points, or 0.6%. The Nasdaq lost 123 points, or 0.64%. Bill, let's get into Friday's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. The S&Ps are negative. We're down 0.4%, and that's not good heading into the morning. Now, there's a couple of things happening here. I mean, yes, we are doing a little bit of a reaction to the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's comments yesterday, where he essentially came out and he said, "Hey, the Fed is in no rush to lower rates." That was followed up by San Francisco Fed Bank President Mary Daly, who also said, that a rate cut in the December meeting is not a done deal. So, there is some concerns. But I also think a lot of this move today is really happening out of, concerns about, events happening out of Washington and the effects of, the possible tariffs and how that's going to affect the markets and interest rates as well. Because when you put out tariffs, you're going to make that 30-year bond, which is the mortgage bond, increase, and that's going to be an issue. And I think the market's really looking at the some of the appointments that Trump has put out there as, I'm going to say, controversial, but because they're going to have to spend a lot of political capital in order to get them through. And when you're spending political capital on your nominees, you're not doing it towards the economy. I would like to see them spend more time on, the tax cuts plans that they're supposedly putting through. What else do I see here? Put volumes in the drug stocks just soared yesterday. Okay, President-elect Trump nominated RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he's a vaccine skeptic and he's a critic of, the federal health agencies. He selected him to be a Secretary of Health and Human Services. That's going to cause a lot of issues because he's going to have a tough time getting through. As well as Matt Gaetz is going to have a tough time getting through to be Attorney General. This is not like a done deal. And this is kind of why you're seeing, you're creating a fight where you don't need one. And that's going to, cause a lot of issues for the market, I believe. Two economic reports coming out this morning. You got retail sales, you got industrial production. A ton of SEC filings are coming out displaying the position adjustments at the major hedge funds. A lot of these big name firms are selling their positions in Apple is what I'm seeing. But let's take a look at what's happening overseas. We got the DAX. The DAX is, the European markets are flat, essentially flat. I'll just say flat. I mean, the DAX is lower by 0.07%. The FTSE's up 0.1%. The CAC is down 0.15%. It's wholesale prices in Germany showed a decline of 0.8% year on year. That's actually positive. 0.14%, which is actually good for the market, for their economy. In London, the GDP came in at plus 0.1, slightly lower than the expectations of plus 0.2. So I guess that's okay. And in France, it looks like it's going to fall for for another weekly loss. But the action there is really muted. They're really kind of waiting on the U.S. to open. But Asia last night, saw mixed price action. The Nikkei jumped, 107 points, or 0.28%. They snapped a 3-day losing streak. Japan's GDP indicated the country grew 0.3% last year. That's positive. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng, was flat to lower. What can I say? It's a 6th consecutive session that Hong Kong has been falling. It's down 6.3% on the week. In the China composite, the Shanghai Composite Index fell 1.45%. Okay, the property market slump and the slower industrial production, that's, really kind of shows the need for continual policy support and possibly more targeted measures from Chinese politicians. We'll have to wait and see if we get that next month. But yeah, I would say that they kind of did weaken the Asian markets overnight. In terms of oil is, again, it's trading lower this morning. You got WTI down trading at $68.49 a barrel. You got Brent at $72.30 a barrel. This is down a little over 0.3%. Oil was down a full percentage point earlier in the day, but it's recovered some of those early morning losses. The fact is the global demand picture remains bearish, and traders are adjusting positions, because they're expecting lower growth in oil demand coming out of China against increased production from OPEC. So, that's causing oil prices to fluctuate. They could move a little lower today because they just pulled up 0.7%, but I could see them falling later by the close of the session today. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update report, Emily.
And Bill, it is a balancing act this morning, as you mentioned, as investors are considering the Fed moving forward, as you mentioned, the upcoming presidential administration and other news headlines across segments. We're going to get to the facts moving the market today throughout the show. And you even mentioned some economic reports to keep track of. But before we get there, let's turn to earnings action. Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings today?
Okay, let's see. Post Holdings, ticker POST, Paul, Oscar, Sam, Tom. They beat by 34 cents, and they did that on higher revenue. That stock's up 1.33% this morning. AMAT, Applied Materials, Apple, Michael, Apple, Tom. They beat by 13 cents. They did it on higher revenue. But the stock's down 8.31%. Why? Because the guidance was a little weak, and that's affecting a lot of tech stocks today, that weak guidance out of AMAT. Alibaba, ticker BABA, boy Apple, they beat by 27 cents, although it was done on lower revenue. But you look at Alibaba this morning, it's up, 1.6% this morning. So, overall it's viewed as a positive report. Upcoming, we got Twist Biosciences on Monday morning. They're expected to lose 73 cents a share. Estimated move is 19.35%. Trip.com, ticker TCOM, Tom, Charlie, Oscar, Michael. They're going to be releasing Monday afternoon. Their EPS is 91 cents. Expected move is 12.52%. Also want to point out next week is kind of a big week for earnings. On Wednesday you have NVIDIA. That's going to be the big one. But on Tuesday you have Walmart. So there's a lot of quality earnings coming up next week that we got to be paying attention to. But that's what I have for you in terms of earnings update, Emily.
Those quality earnings, Bill, you'll be watching using your NewsWare, gathering that data as you are today quickly and through those alerts. And speaking of gathering data, there is a host of economic reports today and some more Fed speak. And again, important to keep track of that to get a feel for what might be coming next in terms of monetary policy. So shifting to economic events, Bill, what is going on there?
Okay, let's go over the calendar. At 8:30 a.m., we get retail sales. Also at 8:30, you get the Empire State Manufacturing Index. At 8:30, you get import-export prices. And at 9:15, you get the industrial production. And at 1 p.m., you get the Baker Hughes rig count. In terms of Fed speak, we get Boston Fed Bank President Susan Collins. She's going to speak again this morning at 9 a.m. And then at 1:15 p.m., we're going to be hearing from New York Fed Bank President John Williams. Key reports this morning are going to be the retail sales at 8:30 and the industrial production at 9:15. Retail sales data, expectations for a gain of plus 0.3%. September's figures came in at plus 0.4%. So, you get the upcoming holiday shopping season. So, that's okay. Industrial production is looking for a reading of negative 0.4% after a decline in 0.3% in September. That kind of makes sense. Yesterday, we did hear from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, who said that the economic data suggests that the Fed doesn't need to be in a rush to cut interest rates. The strength that we are currently seeing in the economy gives us the ability to approach our decisions carefully. He described the U.S. economic performance as remarkably good. That's causing, some concerns about a rate cut in December. That's really what we're seeing, and that's one of the things that's affecting the market this morning. But that's what I have for you in terms of economic update, Emily.
Bill, your economic update, is a clear picture of how you're using your newsware. You gave us a whole calendar of what to expect today. You have alerts set up for those. You'll gather that data information when it comes out. And you also gave us a snapshot of what happened yesterday, having this historical data at your fingertips. And you're able to do that not just with earnings and economic events, but other types of news coming out of different sectors and segments. You break down your newsware into alerts for things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, catalyst calls. You're also able to group stocks together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stock. I think it's 17 lower and 9 higher. The rest unchanged. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. I'm showing some gains in Tesla. Everything else is really trading lower. You're looking at some of the news on the Fed and the FANG stocks. Apple down, 0.9%. Hedge funds are selling their positions. Soros eliminated their position in Apple. Third Point cut its stake by more than 50%. This is what's causing some of the weakness. Google, this came out yesterday. They're launching a dedicated Gemini app for the iPhone. Interesting. Google shares are down 0.5% this morning. Meta Threads had over 15 million signups in November so far this month. We're halfway through the month and we already got 15 million signups. I mean, that's kind of positive. Remember, these are walking away from Twitter or X and onto Meta, so that's kind of interesting. Tesla, I mean, there's a lot of talk around EV credits, and maybe Trump might eliminate them. And that's kind of like what's causing the stock to move a little higher this morning. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, Microsoft, the FTC is preparing to launch a probe into anti-competitive practices at Microsoft's cloud computing unit. To Walmart, positive call volumes yesterday, 4 calls, everyone put, earnings out next week. Disney, I'm seeing a lot of price targets coming in this morning on Disney, and then they're raising price targets across the board on Disney, and this comes after yesterday's earnings announcement. Wednesday, yesterday's earnings announcement. Okay, what else do we see? Mergers, Halo, ticker HALO, Henry, Apple, Larry, Oscar, Halcyon. They're offered to buy German drug maker in a $2.11 billion deal. Interesting. Applied Materials, in terms of guidance news, they see Q1 EPS coming in $2.29 plus or minus 18 cents, 3 decimals, 227. The market viewed this as weak, and that's why you're seeing the sell-off in terms of AMAT this morning. The stock's down 9% now. It's just ugly. I mean, I don't think that it's warranted a 9% drop on it, but because the earnings weren't bad, but that guidance really is showing a concern across the board. In terms of shareholders meetings, Cisco, the food corp, ticker SYY, Sam Yellow, they're having an annual shareholders meeting today. Starts at 11 a.m. In terms of buyback news, Kodiak Gas and Sciences, ticker KGS, Kilo, Gray, Sam. They announced a 50 million share repurchasing program. And Prime America, ticker PRI, Paul Richard India, they announced a 450 million share repurchasing agreement for 2025. I just want to point out one other thing. A lot of 13Fs came out last night. Scion Capital, they bought Baidu and Alibaba. They're adding to their Chinese positions. Pershing Square bought Nike and Brookfield Asset Management Corp. Third Point, bought Tesla, sells Uber, and Warren Buffett's buying Domino's and selling Ulta Beauty. I mean, there's a lot going on. Those 13Fs basically show these major hedge funds that that people look to as quality managers, what they're doing inside of their portfolios, and the Ulta Beauty is interesting because Buffett just added that and they're already selling it. Buying Domino's, that's positive for the stock. Showing Domino's trading higher this morning on that news. And that's what I have in terms of morning market update report, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to end this week?
I'm going to do a play on Disney. I mean, there's no earnings for me to play, but I do think, Disney has the ability to move today if you get in at the right price. I mean, the earnings yesterday were positive, and there's room for the stock to move higher. I mean, yesterday they hit a high of 114.81. You look at the stock today, and it's trading 108.70, and that's still up from where it closed at. Remember, and there's still room for the stock to move higher. Is my point. And you look at yesterday's call volume. 406,666 calls versus 177,739 puts. That's more than 2-to-1. And you look at the call open interest, 675,614 versus 513,866. Yeah, again, that's positive. But the fact that all these brokers are coming out and they're raising their price targets is actually a good sign for Disney. I think that if I can get in, to the stock under 108, if 108, let's call 108 the bottom. If I can get in at around 108, I think it can easily trade 110 today. So that's my pick of the day. I'm going Walt Disney, ticker DIS, David India Sam. As the upgrades are coming in very positive this morning, Emily.
Disney it is today. We will follow that along with you. And coming up, we will do a check-in on yesterday's pick of the day before we sign off for the weekend. So stick with us through that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, sending it back to you.
Okay, let's see. What do we have here? Bristol Myers announces the European opinion approval for a drug, ticker BMY, Bowie Michael Yellow. General Motors cutting 1,000 positions. Fuel cell, ticker FCEL, they announced global restructuring to reduce workforce by 17%. Alcoa, ticker AA, Apple, they're seeing strong gains this morning after China cancels tax incentive on one of its exporting firms. Yeah, Alcoa is up big this morning. Iran told the U.S. that it wasn't trying to kill Trump. Iran told the Biden administration in writings last month that it won't harm Trump or other Americans, according to U.S. officials, and they were supposedly exchanging secret messages recently. Apparently, they're not so secret if we know about them. Trade Desk shareholders approved reincorporation to Nevada, Palantir, PLTR. They're moving from the Nasdaq to the New York. And that for ticker PLTR, Paul, Larry, Tom, Richard. Stock's up, stocks up $1.30, because of this news. Interesting. Domino's Pizza up over 7.5% this morning as Buffett adds it as Buffett takes a stake. Advanced Auto Parts, ticker AAP, new restructuring plans calls for the closure of 500 stores. Eli Lilly, they're suing a federal agency on drug discounts, kind of following what Johnson & Johnson did earlier in the week. They give discounts to these hospitals, and these hospitals, especially in low-income areas, and the hospitals are able to get the drugs at cheaper prices, but these hospitals aren't passing along the discounts. They're keeping them. And so, why are we doing these discounts if they're not going down to the end users? So, Lilly and Johnson & Johnson are kind of talking to these federal agencies and saying this is not right. I mean, if you're asking us to take a haircut, we're willing to do so, but those price cuts have to be passed on, and they're not. Something will come out of that. U.S. finalizes $6.6 billion chip award for TSMC ahead of Trump's return to the White House. CVS Health. You got multiple hedge funds, that are betting on changes in the offering at these healthcare giant like CVS. So they're adding to their positions in the last quarter. These are hedge funds like Third Point and Glenview Capital. Glenview Capital bought 2.8 million shares of CVS in the third quarter. Kraft Heinz, federal judge says the company must face the proposed national class action lawsuit alleging that it defrauded customers by claiming that Kraft macaroni and cheese, one of its best known products, contains no artificial preservatives. Yeah, I don't know why they do that. Just to kind of point out, I mean, you got the pharma stocks really are taking a hit on that RFK nomination. I mean, AstraZeneca, AZN, one called every 4.6 puts yesterday. Aviva, ticker ABBV, one called every 6.4 puts yesterday. Johnson & Johnson, call put ratio, one called every 1.9 puts. Merck, one call to 5.9 puts. Pfizer, one call to 2.3 puts. Moderna, one call to every 6 puts. Thermo Fisher Scientific, TMO, one called every 11.4 puts. I mean, it just was really ugly yesterday in the healthcare sector. But that's what I have for in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
Bill, for good or for bad, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Eli Lilly. As you just pointed out, the healthcare and pharma sectors are taking a hit this morning. You know, as you pointed out just now and in your market overview at the opening of the show, these stocks are battling against that news that President-elect Donald Trump did nominate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be his Secretary of Health and Human Services. You also pointed to that piece of news that Eli Lilly has filed that lawsuit against the Federal Department of Health and Human Services this morning. Now, you were trading this one on some positive news yesterday, and Wolf Research agreed with you on your pick, seeing opportunity with Lilly given its price weakness, initiating the stock at Outperform and announcing a $1,000 price target. But Bill, how did your call work out?
It didn't work out. I mean, like, listen, the stock opened up at 809.19 and fell down to 783.51 and closed at 786.23. I mean, it was a miss. I mean, the data was good. I really thought it was going to have some legs yesterday. I was excited about it because the news was hot. But there was market risk, and the market risk was RFK. RFK Jr. being nominated as Health and Human Services Director. I mean, you know, he's like the fox in front of the hen house. That really was the main factor that was causing the markets, the healthcare sector, to just get pummeled yesterday. And there was no way to foresee that was going to happen yesterday morning. But they killed any opportunity that was possible to offer that positive news in Eli Lilly yesterday. Sorry, it happens sometimes. I'll do better. Hopefully, today's pick will be better. But the Eli Lilly, oh man, was that hurt yesterday, Emily?
It was a miss, but again, maybe an opportunity to get in a discount, a longer term play there, perhaps. But we will check in with you on Monday about today's Disney pick of the day. We live to trade another day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here Monday and each weekday morning next week with NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.